Hello, welcome. It looks like we are going out live through the Reinventing the Tattoo network. If this is working for you, please let us know in the chat rooms of wherever you might be, and you might as well as tag a friend who likes tattoos. This is going to be a TattooNOW show that I'm going to actually show the replay of the Future of Tattoo Conventions with Alex Van Dutch and an awesome set of tattoo convention promoters talking about the future of tattoo conventions. Now this is a panel that Alex and I had gotten together a year or two at this point, previously at the start of the pandemic, and so it's interesting to keep catching up with convention promoters. Now, bear with me a little bit. Like I said, I want to know that it's working for you. I'm going to check to make sure that this is going out, and it looks like it is out on the TattooNOW YouTube channel, so thank you very much for being there and subscribing. It is going out on the Facebooks also, so you want to check out the TattooNOW Facebooks. And okay, and then the last thing I want to check is the Reinventing the Tattoo Now, Reinventing the Tattoo YouTube channel, and it looks like that is also live. So like I said, I'll be monitoring the chat rooms, and if you're interested in tattoo conventions, this is going to be a great episode for you. Okay. Now, as I was saying, you might be beaming in from the YouTube or the Facebook or listening to the podcast in the Apple or podcast or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Do a search for Reinventing the Tattoo. Give us a subscribe. Please send all of your kind reviews into the public forums, and all of your critiques and all that, please send straight to management at Reinventing the Tattoo. There's an app. Reinventing the Tattoo app is in both of the app stores. That is the Apple App Store and the Google Play. We're switching technologies, but that shouldn't even really matter. You should just be able to update the update. And we're streamlining it towards awesome facilitation of education and these online streams. We have like 5 to 7 going out every week. Excuse me. I'm playing tech and host here, so I just want to make sure that, yeah, it looks like everything's going perfectly still. Okay, so across all of the Reinventing the Network shows, we have art jams, we have drawing groups, there's interviews, there's discussion panels, there's webinars, there's event replays from the stage of the Paradise events and the BYOBs. All of these can be enjoyed on demand and found in the YouTube channels, as well as the free resources course. If you go to www.reinventingthetattoo.com, it's always going to be your best place to catch all of the right information for reinventing. And there is a spot there to sign up for the email list. There's also an awesome goals form. So if you basically let Guy know some of your goals, then he has advice on how to take next steps towards them. Anyways, check out reinventingthetattoo.com if you are interested in just a real quick way to show people these shows and you're not quite sure where to start, or if you're up at 3 o'clock in the morning looking for something and you have to get off Netflix, if you go to Reinventing 24/7. And you know what? I've got a little bit of time here. I'm going to Reinventing, Reinventing 247.com. I'm going to show you kind of how easy it is to catch all of these awesome shows. And this way, like I said, just if you're talking to a tattooer or a desktop, is this going to work? It is. Oh my goodness. Sorry, I didn't mean to be surprised that the technology is going to work. But double click on the desktop here. Oh, you can't hear me when I do that, so, well, I guess you just have to trust me. If you go to Reinventing 24/7, currently there's an interview on with, I'm going to, how do I make this work? Audio? I want to make the audio work. No audio signal. This is really sad, but I will have this working for next time because it's worth it. Well, sorry, I don't mean to be doing this on the fly. Okay, so anyways, right now on Reinventing 24/7, you can be watching an interview with Hunter Spanks. There is also a Reinventing Drawing Group, a replay from a Monday morning with Jake Meeks. There is an oil painting demo with Rain Del Mar, surreal painting step by step. There is Tattoo Collecting Podcast number 17 with Chuck Deasy, excuse me. And we also have a channel, it's in the global channel in Espanol, and currently there is a Guy Aitchison and Stefano Alcantara bilingual interview going on. So this is at reinventing247.com. And if you scroll down to the bottom of it, well, for one, you'll see some of our sponsors, but then you'll scroll down and there's a Reinventing the Tattoo sample pack form. And if you are a tattooer, put in your shop address, and then we will mail you out sample packs from the Reinventing the Tattoo community sponsors. That includes raw pigments and Cheyenne cartridges, as well as a couple other things. I believe we have Dermalize going into the packs. And yeah, so I'll talk about all the sponsors in a little bit. So weekly staples on the Reinventing the Tattoo channel include Reinventing Drawing Groups every Sunday at 1 p.m. with Jason Leeser. Monday mornings at 9 a.m. is the Early Bird Drawing Group with Kier. Everyone's invited to join in with these drawing groups. You could find the Zoom links on the homepage of reinventingthetattoo.com. Go to the events link, and you'll see right there there's a Google Calendar. Pick out whichever event you're interested in. You'll get all the details, and if it's one that you could Zoom into, then the Zoom link will show up there about 5 minutes before the event starts. Other events that we have regularly, Mondays at 9 p.m. is a subscriber exercise with Guy Aitchison. And if you are a tattooer or an apprentice, it's unbelievable. You should make sure that you carve out Monday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard, and you could be joining live exercises. You could be getting your art critiqued by Guy every week. And about halfway through, all the artists join in, not all the artists, a lot of artists join in on Zoom. A lot of people just kind of watch and are drawing in the background. And all these replays are also available for the subscribers. So the Reinventing the Tattoo Canon subscription is definitely something that if you're a tattooer or an apprentice, you should be getting. There are actually you can now gift subscribe Reinventing, and there are shop 5-packs, or really just 5-packs if you get 5 people together. Or if you just want to give away 5 copies if you're a sponsor or something. Anyways, there's 5-packs for currently $9.99. That's a holiday special. So if you're listening and you catch that, you should go straight to reinventingthetattoo.com. There will be a link for the holiday gift subscriptions up at the top there. Sorry, now I really notice all of my ums after doing all these videos. Tuesday at 10 a.m. is another drawing group with Ricardo. Wednesdays at 12 noon is the TattooNOW show, which is what we're watching now. Thursdays at 10 a.m. is a fundamental subscribers group with Kier. So this is all skill levels are encouraged to join in and Zoom in. She's also doing great deliberate exercises. So that happens every Thursday at 10 a.m. Thursdays at 12 noon is the Tattoo Collecting Podcast. And then Friday and Saturday we have some specials. Actually, I believe on Fridays, or some of these Fridays, we'll be doing Bridging the Gap. Kyle is an apprentice hopeful who has been working and interning with TattooNOW and Reinventing, actually freelancing a little bit too. And he is interviewing old timers. It's awesome. You should check the archives for his interview with Good Time Charlie. It's a recent archive. We just did it a couple of weeks ago. But that's awesome. It's when, not everyone, a lot of people are grumbling and talking about how, the youth don't know their history, and this is going to be a great way for people to learn. And, and Kyle and all the other apprentice hopefuls and types who are doing interviews with all the old timers are going to get a direct connection, the new generation with the oldest generation. So anyways, those are our regular shows that happen weekly, and yeah, you could always find the upcoming special events. I know that Renee's doing a painting exercise, or painting group. I believe it's Monday at 6. This upcoming Monday at 6. Okay, whew. I'm going to take a deep breath here. Check the streams. It seems like it is working here. Thank you very much for tuning in. Oh, hey, hello from Turkey. Hello, Vane. If you have any comments or questions about tattoo conventions, it's going to be a fun show. We've got an all-star panel of convention promoters coming up. Okay, so speaking of conventions, let's talk about the real world events that we will be at. This is Reinventing the Tattoo. February 5th and 6th is a Reinventing the Tattoo live from the Red Tree / True Tubes facility in Columbus, Ohio. We have art jams, seminars. The links are going to be coming up very soon. So again, go to Reinventing, join the mailing list, and you'll get first crack at the tickets. Let's see, St. Mark confirmed, Bob Tyrrell confirmed. Let's see, Conan Lee confirmed, Jesse Smith confirmed, Nick Mitchell, Jillian Marie. Okay, so we have some tattooers that'll be tattooing and doing Q&A. We'll have seminars and painting. We'll have, like I said, art jams. Sunday night, Derb's going to do a tour of the whole facility, and we'll show off all the artwork. We'll have maybe even an Easter egg hunt, so if you're beaming in virtually, you know, you'll be able to watch, but be able to like catch hints and stuff. I don't know, we're going to do some fun things. That's February 5th and 6th, but again, it's not a full-on convention. I don't know, maybe like 100-ish people. It's a pretty big space. You know, convention, Derb obviously runs the Hill City Convention, so we'll talk about that in a second. Let's see, April 11th to the 14th is the Inspiring Tours, the first one. It sold out within, it wasn't quite 48 hours, it was like 50 hours. It was really damn close. This one is in New Hampshire with Nick Baxter and Sean Barber. It's like 3.5 days of, you know, basically mentorship with 5 students, 5 to 7 students for these tours in New Hampshire, or for, you know, for the resort retreats. And yeah, it's basically instructions and seminars where everyone gets to know each other. And then the last day, they'll be doing tattooing. We are setting up more of these Inspiring Tours in New Hampshire and New Mexico. So if you go to https:// the website is inspiring.tours. And yeah, hop on the mailing list right there, and yeah, we'll email you about the next events that we're planning. May 20th to the 22nd is Hell City, Columbus, Ohio, hellcity.com. Reinventing will be there with a booth, TattooNOW with a booth. It's going to be a lot of fun. You know, pandemic pending, it'll be one of the few big shows that we're doing next year. July 8th to the 10th is the Rock River Tattoo Art Expo. There'll be a Reinventing track. We've got a nice hall that is going to have like a classroom hall, so it's got like the amphitheater thing going on. That's outside of Chicago, so it's really easy to get to, and we will be beaming out. And so if you just want to do that virtually, a lot of these things I'll be setting up all the technology to beam virtually. If enough people really want, we could do a 360 camera on the VR. I'm telling you, we're doing some really cool stuff. July 29th to the 31st is the Rubber City Tattoo Invitational in Akron, Ohio, hosted by Tony Urbanic. Then October 20th to the 23rd is the Paradise Tattoo Gathering in Hancock, Massachusetts. Although, I don't know, I'm kind of thinking about more like another BYOB. It was a lot of fun, and I don't know, again, we'll do an event there in Hancock, Massachusetts at Jimmy Peak. We, you know, we'll just basically sell out the place. Again, it's only like 100 rooms there, so it's a nice, airy place that we can take over, but it's not like jam-packed anywhere. So, let's see here. Lastly, how good am I doing on time? Oh man, I'm going crazy. But this gives us time to make sure that it's all working. Our sponsors for the Reinventing the Tattoo include, well, Reinventing the Tattoo. It includes the Reinventing Canon I talked about earlier, as well as over 24 other courses for tattooers and apprentices, replays. It's the courses are anywhere between like $100 and I think $250 maybe. You could even get over for $300. There's a build a tattoo machine with hand tools. From Tony Urbanic, and one of the packages includes the pieces parts. Interstate Inc. LA, that's Instagram at Interstate Inc. LA, is out in LA. Church is an awesome realist. He's making some awesome sneakers and tattoos. The whole shop there is clean and sober. So if you're looking for a supportive lifestyle, that's the place to go. Or if you know somebody that's very talented that needs to clean up and get out there to change their life and put it on the right direction, they have all sorts of support out there. That's at Interstate Inc. LA, and frankly, they just do awesome tattoos. So if you're looking to get tattooed, there you go. It's right in LA. RawPigments.co has been a long-time supporter of the Reinventing the Tattoo community, rawpigments.co. And as I was saying earlier, if you go to reinventing247.com, scroll down to the bottom, fill out the form with your address. We don't need to hear us talk about raw pigments. You can try them out yourself. World Tattoo Event, who actually is hosting this panel that I'm about to run coming up, is hosted by Alex Van Dutch. That's worldtattooevents.com. DLize Pro, otherwise known as Dermalize, out in the rest of the world, is thank you to International Copyrights for having the two names. Anyways, check it out. It's a healing wrap that's designed to heal tattoos, and if you're still using cling wrap, it's not breathable. It stuff gets kind of weird, so you should definitely try out the Dermalize. Check out their videos. You can see who's using it. Sometimes I have a magazine here. They got like a crazy amount of people that are using Dermalize. And TattooNOW, I do computer stuff. TattooNOW.com/services. I'm not finished with all those links. Well, if you're watching live, I'm not finished with all the links. After I start running the replay, I'm going to go there and feverishly work on it. Anyways, there's an interactive tour, which is pretty sweet. And it has a list of all the different things that TattooNOW has to offer. Last but not least, and in fact, really first for the Reinventing the Tattoo community, is Guy Aitchison, GuyAitchison.com. Unbelievable tattooer, artist. Well, I mean, he's an artist and also a tattooer. As one of his mediums, sculptor, all sorts of teacher, mentor. He creates Reinventing the Tattoo, makes it happen, and allows us all to inspire each other, to collaborate with each other, and all of that. So, okay, thanks again for bearing with me here. I am going to run the panel here, just kind of as we had it from the Paradise BYOB that we did this last October. It was a live event. It was amazing to see people in person again. You know, watching people swap stories and, you know, experienced tattooers, you know, kind of show the ropes to the younger ones. You know, there was no egos or pretenses. You know, people just got to ask questions and get their answers. And anyways, this was an amazing panel that we did there. Thank you to Alex Van Dutch and for everybody for beaming in. Hopefully this technology just works.
And I need to hear about this cane more later.
Quiet on the set. Okay, so we are now live from day 4 of the Paradise BYOB. This is on a week start. This is a Sunday to Wednesday show, but that's tattooers' days off, so that's what we're doing. We are beaming in with Alex Van Dutch from worldtattooevents.com, the most comprehensive website for tattoo conventions, and I can attest to this personally. I tried to copy his shit like 10 years ago, and after a day, I was like, there is no way I can keep up with this level of information. So worldtattooevents.com, Alex Van Dutch. He's got an amazing panel of tattoo convention promoters, and they're going to discuss the future of tattoo conventions. And it's we're very thankful to have everybody. And yeah, so I'm going to pass it off to Alex to do some introductions, and I'm eagerly going to be listening because obviously I'm a convention promoter, so I can't wait to hear what everyone has to say. Okay.
Cool. Thank you for the introduction, Gabe, and thank you for having us at your live event. So, yeah, today this will be the third edition of the Future of Tattoo Conventions, which we did for the first time in May 2020, 3 months after the pandemic really stopped all tattoo conventions on the planet. Derb was one of the panelists as well. And this time we'll have Derb again, organizer of the Hell City Tattoo Convention. By the way, you guys do a lot of stuff, so I'm just gonna mention your conventions that you can tell whatever else you do, because all of you do a lot. We got Gabe Shum from Hong Kong, which is the organizer of the Hong Kong Tattoo Convention. Karsten from Denmark, organizing the 50 Shades of Inks in Denmark and Sweden. And then we have Mario Bart, which is now going to organize the World Trade Tattoo and Piercing Conference in Las Vegas at the end of this month, actually. And well, I mean, Mario, I don't think it does really need a lot of other introductions, but yeah, you guys can start actually introducing yourself about what you do and what are you up to these days.
Derb should start, right? He's
right.
ready.
Derb should start
He's warmed up already.
Already warmed up.
Derb is a smooth talker here, so.
Well, my name's Derb Morrison. I've been tattooing professionally for 32 years, actually tattooing for 36 years since I was 13 years old. Once I found tattooing, I kind of just never turned back, and I've put all my focus and energy into tattooing and the art and the industry in general over the years. So I started the Hell City Tattoo Festival back in 2002. So we're coming up on our 20-year anniversary. We do it both in Columbus, Ohio and Phoenix, Arizona. Unfortunately, with the pandemic, we've had the last few years off. So we've missed a good 4 conventions at the moment. But in the meantime, when I wasn't able to do the conventions, I also own Red Tree Tattoo Gallery in Columbus, Ohio. And that houses the Hell City Tattoo Festival, like all the equipment and stuff. And it also houses True Tattoo Supply that I've been doing for about 16 years now. So it's kind of a gist of what I do. We're back to focusing on Hell City 2022. Obviously with a lot of new changes and, you know, new protocols and things like that for safety of the artists and the attendees, but really looking forward to get back into it. I love these discussions. I'm glad conventions are still on the discussion board and stuff like that. Thanks, Alex, for having us. Gabe, thanks for having us. Everybody, thanks for listening.
Thank you, Derp. Gabe, do you want to be next from Hong Kong?
All right. Yeah, I'm Gabby Song from Hong Kong. I've been tattooing since I was 19 and I'm now 59. And also I organized one of the first tattoo convention in Hong Kong. And then this year I just finished one of the smaller because of the COVID. So because a lot of outside country artists, they cannot come to Hong Kong because they have to quarantine for 21 days. And then so I just finished one of my local small convention that is only, let's say, 38 local artists. And then luckily...
All from Hong Kong.
All from Hong Kong local. Because I cannot invite people from overseas because they have to quarantine. So it won't work. We have been stopped. Because I won one of the first tattoo convention in Hong Kong, which was 2 years ago. And then it was the seventh convention, and running pretty big, pretty well. And then let's say last year's the 7th one is 480 artists invited from all over the world. Then luckily we mostly every year we catch, let's say, 28,000 people floated. Yeah, for the convention, not in Hong Kong, is not bad number
visitors.
And then
it's a pretty packed city, eh? Like.
Yeah, and then because of the COVID, everything stopped. So planning next year's, the eighth tattoo Hong Kong convention will be keep going, and then I'm planning to run a tour. This is what I'm thinking. If it works, okay, like let's say the coming years, June, then I'm going to invite maybe, let's say, 400 artists all over the world. Then after that, then a week after, then the whole crew will move to China. Maybe take by train or by plane, whatever, and then Shanghai convention. A week after, Chengdu convention. This is what I'm planning now.
That's a nice idea, man. I like that one. So a nice tour around China. With 400 people, with 400 artists. That's cool.
Well, with me, guys will enjoy China.
I'm sure.
Okay.
Karsten, you wanna? Sorry. Karsten, you wanna introduce yourself?
Yeah, I am an old tattoo artist from Denmark. I stopped tattooing 5 years ago. I retired from tattooing, but not from the world of body art. So I'm involved in some media, online tattoo magazine, online platform. I have a small supply company in Copenhagen. And then I run a couple of tattoo shows in Denmark and Sweden. And due to the pandemic, we are really been slapped in the face. 10 days prior our show in Helsingborg here in the beginning of September, we were closed by the government. We didn't get the final license. They really fucked us up. So
like 10 days before, right?
10 days before takeoff. So now we are down. We are postponing everything for next year. We are still motivated to do great shows. We know we have to change also the protocol for the shows because of this. But now we are in a mode where I focus a little bit more on the media fest stuff. So and that's also nice, of course.
Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Karsten. Well, I guess it's time to introduce Mario Bart.
Yeah.
All right. So sorry about my voice. I'm in heavy rehearsals for our concert, and I'm a little roughed up with my vocals, but I'll do my best here. Mario Bart did my first tattoo in 1976, became a full-time professional a little bit over 40 years ago. I've been in the industry for a long time. I've done a lot of shows in Helsinki and everywhere around the world, and have started in 2001 my first tattoo convention in New Jersey, which was called at that time biggest tattoo show on earth, and which happened unfortunately 10 days after the 9/11 attack in the United States. We still held the show. We were really hardly contemplating not to do the show. Many people of you can remember that. And there was only one person who couldn't join. Everybody showed up. It was incredible. And we have moved on with the shows yearly since then, and tried to do something bigger, brought the show to Las Vegas, tried to move into the convention centers, to the big operations, so we gained more mainstream public outreach, right? That was always the biggest part for me. It's like that the general public gets also more seduced to come into the conventions, right? So we get more main recognition in the world. As you guys know, I'm in the midst of putting on a show right now, which is, we're going to talk about it a little bit. There's some really, really heavy updated news for this. We're battling again, as all of you, the COVID situation, and we are in talks with the hotel the last 3 days, and there could be a really, really sad message being announced later on this afternoon, because there's restrictions coming down on the show. As you said, 10 days before, we are like 2.5 weeks before. And the situation is that we have been informed that the restrictions have been tightened up on our show. And it's because the numbers are going up again, and there could be a situation that there have to be some changes made. So there's some great topics to talk about, what goes on with the future of tattoo conventions. That's why I'm excited to jump on this, and I think it's maybe a really great opportunity to discuss with all of us what's going on in the future.
It is.
I think, first of all, I would like to say thank you to everybody who puts on a tattoo convention, right? Regardless where it is or how they're doing it, because it helps us to broaden the spectrum from our industry for everybody. Like that, people understand that we are a industry and not just like people in the side street anymore, right? We do multiple businesses. I'm pretty sure all of you, or at least I, started tattooing because I didn't want to work, right? And I didn't want to conform. I didn't want to have business. I was like, I'm not going to be in any business, and today, 40 plus years later, I work more than ever, right? It's like 20 hours a day, and we're trying to push it. And there's a lot to talk about what I did in my time for the last 40 years, but many of you know it. The other ones who don't know, it's like you can find out a lot what I did and make your own choice. But I'm happy to be here and discuss this with you guys. I couldn't be more honored about that.
Very happy to have you here, Mario, and thank you for participating to this. And I'm personally I was very eager to have you on board with everything is going on with conventions. And I know you also being very active and very vocal on this ban on tattooing, and I think this is also something that we should discuss today, because this is something which is going to affect a lot the tattoo industry in Europe and then the rest of the world. But then not only the tattoo artists, but later on also the tattoo conventions. And I would like to hear some of your perspectives.
Maybe we want to do a second part of it if you guys want to, or we can start with this and then go to the convention. I think I have a lot of information to share. I think I also have a lot to say about it. It's and
we're all listening.
So it's really up to you how you guys want to start. If you want to start talking about the ban, or if you want to talk about the future of tattoo convention, I'm open for any conversation. I have time. We can talk about the next 2 hours if we want to. Three.
I think the two things are really correlated. I mean, at least in Europe. I don't think it's possible to talk about the future of tattoo conventions in Europe without knowing what's really going on with this ban.
Yeah. Okay. Then let's start this for a second. As everybody knows, the blue and the green ban was just the start of the beginning. I've said this years and years ago, right? I formed a coalition in the United States. It's called the CTS, Coalition for Tattooing Safety, in 2011, and I have tried to get all the manufacturers on the table, which I achieved in 2011 in August. And we flew everybody into Florida. We got him a hotel room and tried to get him into a conference room together. Interesting at that time, what I said, they should leave everything outside, and we managed to settle. They all had lawsuit against each other, right? Because the biggest Achilles heel, and I always say this, you will always hear me say this in the industry, is that the people cannot get on a table. It's like they always work behind their back. They always fight each other. They always are out for their personal gain first. And it has a reason why I explained this first before we go into the ban, because that's really the source of this whole situation. And then, so we managed it that everybody settled his lawsuits before they entered the conference room. You know, it was done out of the public eyes. So we managed it that they all shook hands, and then they walked into the conference room together, and we started discussing the situation of the future. And I explained at that time, because I was working since 2005. I have heard that there's something coming down the pipeline, right? Like with the popularity growing as fast as it did in tattooing, of course, also other people started to look into it, right? And then, as you guys know, the most people in regulatory power situations are in a different age group. So they still think we are crazy, right? Like everybody who gets a tattoo is crazy. They're like, oh, what are they doing when they're 60? I mean, I'm almost 60, so I don't know, it's still the same shit. Makes no difference, but they don't understand that, right? And I have proven that point a couple of years ago in I think it was in Switzerland, where I asked the panel which decides about this, who has tattoos, and there were 6 people on the panel, and not one of them had a tattoo. So it proved my point. You guys make a decision about an industry which you know nothing about. Really, because if at least one had a tattoo, then we could have talked to that one person to understand what it means, but they don't understand that scenario, right? The secondary part is that the Achilles heel in this industry is absolutely that the manufacturers, or however you want to call them, they cannot be together on a table. They can't be for a short term, but they just don't do it. They say they do it, but they're not doing it. So what happens is like they are on the table, and then instead of working with one united voice, because that's what our industry really needs, we need one educated speaker, one who is really qualified to speak, right? That means he has to have the right certification. He has to be an academic. He has to be, you know, because that's what we're dealing with. We're dealing with academics on the other side.
Yes.
So we need to have communication in the right words with that person, and then they need to communicate. We can't build a bridge a mile up the road, right? Or a kilometer up the road, and then the other side on a kilometer further down, and then we build a bridge. We don't meet, right? So we need to have the right people talking to each other, and the right people communicating the message in a proper way to each other. And so we can come to a conclusion where the industry finds its needs and the regulatory agencies find their need, right? And then we can make this work. Currently, that's not happening. And I think a really big point of this is like when all this started, this didn't start what the most people think 5 years ago. This started in 2003. This is when that started. And without naming any names, right? It's not important who started it or whatever, but there was one company which started to try to take, it was not mine. I can promise you that. It was not mine whatsoever. In 2003, I had no interest in dealing with regulatory agencies. I was still running my motorcycle every day and free in the wind. I wanted nothing to do with anybody who has some regulatory pull. There was one company in Switzerland which started that issue. And then basically what happens is they promised the government at that time that they can find a safe product. That's how they worded it. We can create a safe product, right? And the situation is at that time, as many of you know, you were long enough in the business, we were using whatever we could get as tattoo pigments. Most people of us, including me, had no clue what was in it, right? It just worked for 20 or 30 years before, so why wouldn't it work for the next 20? And that's the reality of it, right? So, I mean, some had more information than others, but ultimately we just purchase product that we saw in a tattoo convention in Dunstable or on National or anywhere else, right? And we assumed that this is all the proper product. And for that time it was, I think. So what basically happened is like they started to make promises to regulatory agencies that they can fulfill. It's now 2021. Those companies are out of business. And we have to face the backlash of that, because what happened is, as everybody knows, the government works slow but consistent. So over the years, they started working into this and started looking into it and say, hey, they have no data. They have no data. Where's this coming from? What are we using it for? And who has some safety issues, right? And then in 2010 or 2015, when the laser industry came into it, that's really when everything started to open up, because now the laser industry said, okay, there's people which want to remove those tattoos. So we don't know what's in the pigments. So what basically happens is like the laser industry started to put money behind it to find out what happened when they shattered the pigments and it goes to the system, and says like now it becomes a secondary mutation maybe, right? And it could become dangerous to your system. Because the biggest part that most people don't understand, the laser is not an external extraction, it's an internal. So that means it shatters the pigment into, it's like a missile shooting into a building. I mean, I always to explain this, nothing else. You shoot a missile in, it explodes, there's millions of parts, and then basically it goes intradermal or it goes intrasystem, and then it goes to your system and to your bloodstream and to your part, and your body dissolves it, and then, you know, now it becomes a different product. Now the laser industry put the money behind it and said like, hey, listen, they need to create a safer product. I said, no, you should create a better fucking system. You know, because it's like, we don't make the product that it's removed, we make the product that it stays, right? And then a third element what came to that is that they started to group us into cosmetics, right? And the people were always like, yeah, we are like cosmetic, we are like, no, we are not. We are not cosmeticians, we are not cosmetology students, we are tattoo artists, right? What we create is a permanent element. We want to make it that it stays stable, that it stays where it's supposed to stay, and we want to have it last longer than a lifetime, right? I mean, that's really our goal. That's the artist's goal. It's like, otherwise, our whole philosophy of life, what we live as tattoo artists, is gone. We take it away. We're working on permanent changes. We're not working on something what should disappear next week. I mean, what's the purpose of the art form, what we're having, right? So nobody really talks about this. And that's the source of this, because then all those elements being grouped in to a situation that we are a cosmetic product, we fall under the regulations of the cosmetic products. And cosmetic products are deemed not to be permanent. So now all the ingredients we're using to make it stable over the last 30, 40, 50 years, right? They're changing around and making us creating new products. In this case, the pigments, right? But we have no data on the pigments, what they want us to create. So it's all new data. The danger actually starts right now, because we have no idea what this does in 10 years from now, but we know what it did the last 30 years. And unfortunately, the industry is not getting on the table to speak as a united voice on this and make it work, and let one person really direct this with the panelists and tell them we do not belong in cosmetics. We are our own industry. It's an adult division, and we have to do it. Absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, somebody tried to talk.
Yeah, no, I agree with Mario's, like, that is the thing, is like what we're doing, you know, we're trying to do a permanent thing. Like you said, the cosmetic industry is not permanent. Separating two industries is the smartest thing to do, because there's different procedures, different aftercare, different sterilization. It's really two different things, you know, with what we do, you know, with artistic tattooing and just all the different elements that revolve around our art form compared to cosmetic stuff. Shouldn't even be in the same field. So I agree with Mario, is like, that is the problem, is that they got the two industries mixed together. You got one way of thinking with cosmetic, that's a whole different way of thinking, in my opinion. And you got tattooers that are trying to be more permanent. You know, we want our artwork to last. We spent a lot of money on it, and that's what the clients are after. You know, they're not after the semi-permanent thing. So yeah. the people that are writing the regulations up need to realize that, like, our clients don't want it to be temporary. These clients want it to be temporary. It's literally, like you said, Mar, it's that simple.
Yeah, but the biggest one is like it's. I just want to address this. Then I'll be quiet for a second. Obviously, I'm very passionate about that situation. We can talk about the bank too, because what's coming up, right? Because that's really your first question. What's the future holding from January 4th on?
Exactly.
So I think the big part is like they don't really understand what our industry needs, right? Because they didn't have 100,000 people yet standing in front of their conference room and screaming outside that they have a right to decide what they want to have on their body. And I'm not calling up for a rally, right? But I'm saying it's like if one person would stand up in front of this podium and he has like 500 people behind him, the people will listen. Because now they understand that they're dealing with an industry. They're not dealing with an individual. And that's the biggest challenge we have, you know,
exactly.
In this case, to channel the message. It doesn't help us if 500 people are in the front screaming because they can't hear what they say. But we need to get them behind it and one person drive the message, right? Well, whoever that is.
We ran into an issue here when right when the pandemic hit, where they shut all the tattoo studios down. We were closed in Ohio. We were closed for about 2 months, but we came to the situation where tattoo studios almost did not get opened up because they were trying to separate us from like salons and things like that. But we're like, dude, if you're going to regulate us just like a salon, we should be allowed to open when all these salons open. So we actually were getting ready to organize an Ohio kind of like a protest, like an open protest with a similar message with everybody, you know, that we should be open. But they were trying to not allow tattooing to open again at the same time that salons and things were showing. They're trying to separate the industries right there.
Yeah.
You know? So we had to actually like stand up. I wrote to the mayor and the governor and even their receptionists and stuff like that, saying that we're going to have an Ohio protest if you don't allow us to open, if you allow salons to open and not tattoo studios, when we know more about cross-contamination, bloodborne pathogens, first aid, CPR. We're trained in that, you know? So if they weren't going to let us open, we're going to do a protest. And sure as hell, they lumped us together and they allowed us to open up, you know, with the salons in Ohio. I think we opened up in Ohio, one of the fastest states to open back up. I think Georgia was another one that allowed tattooing to open up again. So.
And this is because all the artists got back together.
Yeah, like Mario was saying, like people need to come together. And that's kind of the message we are putting out to, I mean, all of Ohio. We had all the Ohio shops that were going to go out at 5 p.m. when they like allowed salons to open, but not tattoo shops. We were going to be out picketing, you know, and kind of.
It sounds crazy, but it's the only way, really, you know.
It is. Yep. And they listen. And you just said it, Mario, that is the only way, because once we told them, like, we're going to be very vocal about this and show that you're discriminating against our industry, but you're allowing the other ones. There, you know, even with salon stuff, there's no social distancing when you're cutting somebody's hair. There's no real, my dogs are going to go crazy. There's no real social distancing with tattooing. So it's a part of our industry to develop those safety, you know, procedures. And I think we've done amazing for our industry over the years. You know, like
absolutely. I've said this too on the panel there. I've said this multiple times. I said, what you guys do not take in consideration is this is a very well self-regulatory industry worldwide. If you really look at the basic line set up for everywhere, it doesn't matter if it's Hong Kong, Denmark, tattoo shops have been self-regulated for a very long time, and I think very well. It doesn't matter where they are, the message travels, that most people try to really run professional tattoo shops, how they are set up, how it's done, right? And we didn't need to have a government control us in this way. We were very well, but the challenge, what happened is we did not find a unified system yet, right? And that's really where it goes back. And going back to your January 4th issue, because I know that's really the source of the question. It's like, it will be very difficult. And I can tell you why it will be very difficult, because there's a lot of restrictions in the ingredients, which cannot be used anymore. I think a lot of the color manufacturers are working on it very hardly to get this done, to bring the product back. I know we definitely do. I also know several other ones which do it well. I think also the petition did very well, right? Like what happened over there. It's like we had a very heavy push on that. We created over 48,000 signatures in less than a week with it. But it has shown that it was a global impact, right? It's like, and that's really then when the success arrived, that it's tabled for the blue and the green. The actual ban is tabled for a while to reconsider. It's not out of the picture. It's tabled, so it's being moved. They have to reconsider it because too many voices came in, right? You know how it is. I'm sorry, it became a political game. That's what it is. Yeah. If you have 50,000 or 100,000 or 200,000 people complaining, those are actual voters, right? And normally, if we do it correctly, it's very simple. You call up every person who has a tattoo, and this is where it's really, really disturbing. If you look into Europe alone, with just in Germany, if you take, there's 80 million people. We can assume there's about at least 20 million people with tattoos, right? In this country alone. It's like normal, there should be at least 10% of them should go in and scream at the government, because at that moment you have 2 million votes. 2 million votes are a seat in the Senate, there's a seat in whatever, in the parliament, whatever you want to call it. And at that time, you will have a politician to step up to the plate and say, hold on, time out. We have some issue here because a certain part of our population doesn't like what they're doing, and we're going to get those votes. So that's what has to be done. Otherwise, I can tell you, they will table. I know there's some lawsuits being filed against Edge and Reach for this regulation, because the regulation is really founded on no substance. They have no data whatsoever. And I have to call out Dr. Sarab on that. And I hope a lot of people watch this, because they're going to do something what's maybe not known in this industry. Dr. Sarab, the founder of the European Pigment Society, right, in Denmark. You guys know him. We can't forget that the guy runs a clinic for removal tattoos, right? It's like nobody talks about it. He's like the hero of this. But his agenda is to keep his business going. And his business means tattoo removal. Otherwise, they're going to shut his clinic down if he doesn't have any case on it. And the next situation, what happens is, he did a study because he was saying that tattoo pigment, black pigment especially, causes cancer. So he made the study.
Is there any evidence? I'm sorry, Mario. Like,
I'm going to give you the evidence.
But there's never been any evidence.
Yeah, that's why I'm happy that I'm going to say this right now. He did the study. He said he's going to prove that it has cancer. I said, absolutely not. You have no data. I don't know where this comes from. And then he made a study. He made it on rats, this fucking piece of shit. I'm sorry to say it. But it's like, he's going to go, does it. And he said, indeed, after 3 years study, by the way, which was funded by the government and by people in the tattoo industry, which paid for that, right? Because they supported the organization. He had a 3-year study, and he said, yes, indeed, it caused skin cancer by overexposure from the sunlight. But in his report, he also stated that the rats without pigment had skin cancer earlier, because they detected that the absorption of sunlight through the pigment actually extended the effect of skin cancer. So I told him on a meeting in front of everybody, I said, okay, this is great news. Can you like open this? Can you give it to the public? His answer on the table was, I cannot, for political reasons. I'm like, you fucking piece of shit just declared that tattooing is safe. And now you fucking tell us you can't do it. And unfortunately, there were many tattoo pigment manufacturers sitting on this table, and none of them were going with me on it and fucking go after Sarah. One was falling asleep because it was not important enough to him.
Dude.
So I'm just telling you, and I'm talking about every single manufacturer in the tattoo pigment industry. And I was kicking and screaming until they shut us down and said, like, oh, we don't want to talk to you anymore. I'm like, for real? So this is what we're dealing with. They have no data whatsoever that they can prove that those pigments have done anything. But also the opposite side on this is, because the industry is not together and they are not providing the data, it's a he says, she says situation. And that goes back that the people cannot get on the table and put their data together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like we have enough data, but as soon as I bring it in, it's going to be an individual bringing in the data, and it's not going to gain the recognition because it's for personal profit.
It's not an industry.
It's not an industry. That's the problem, really. And this is what unfortunately the tattoo artists will pay the price, because they will not have the product they need. And then it's also the European manufacturers try to box out the American manufacturer, because that's really what this is. They just say like, oh, it's all America, it's all America, it's all America. No, it has nothing to do with America. It has something to do with pigment manufacturing. And then we cannot keep one thing forgotten. 99% of the pigment guys which are out there, or let's say 95%, because otherwise they're gonna kick and scream again. So people can feel comfortable in the 5%, are rebottlers. Let's just be honest about it. They don't know what's in the pigment.
Yeah,
they don't manufacture the pigment. They buy it and they put it in a bottle and sell it to you with a label on it.
That's going on a lot in this industry.
Nor do they give a shit what's in it. So unfortunately, the industry has to decide which company is doing the right thing for them. There's several out there which do the right thing and work hard to get this done. It's like the industry has to make the call who they're going to support and who not. Otherwise, the artist will pay the price, and ultimately the client will pay the price, because what's going to happen is the end consumer, right? If we want to talk about the situation is like, will not be able to choose the tattoo they would like to get, because they're limited in the supplies, what they can put into their skin. And it's not going to go away. We all know this. We all have all of you are longer in the business than 30 years. We know how the underground works. It's not like that we say, oh, can't have blue? All right, I'm not going to get like tattooed anymore. Bullshit. We're going to be...
find the hidden bottle of blue I got here.
Or they're making something else, which is even less regulated. I mean, you know, like if you don't have the right colors, it's gonna become even more messy.
And I'll put my blue pigment in a pink bottle and shake it and be like, you get blue.
You know what I mean?
That's the same thing what they did in Spain, right? With Alchemia, who claimed everything, and it's maybe the only company I call out. They did it, and then the tattoo artists even got locked up into jail for using a different product than Alchemia. I mean, where's this going? I mean, what's next? We're burning books, and we don't let people fucking use what they want to use. And I'm talking about it when it's safe. You know what I mean? There's many companies which provide a very great safe product, considering what happened 10 years ago. And also, again, we cannot forget self-inflicted safety. The color companies which are out there, they on themselves took it on themselves to create a better working environment, a better place to create it, better product what's going to come out. They had no regulations. They did that free willing out of their own will, because they want to improve the industry. So I think that's really what has to be said.
Mario, but what is the status with this petition? I mean, as far as I know, this is the biggest petition ever landed into the hands of the European lawmakers.
Yes.
What's the status with this?
So the state currently is that it's tabled for a while, you know, but it can't stop. So what happened, it was a really great push. Then when the success got celebrated, right, and many of you will have seen the success celebrated by certain people, right, then there was enough for them, because it was the hero situation, right? Like, oh, we're the heroes. And they did a great job to put this in motion. But that's not how you finish it. It doesn't help you to be great in a 1,000-meter run, to be the first in the 100 meters. It's the person who comes in at the end, right? And that's really what's being forgotten, because there's a lot more work to do now, because by putting this snowball in motion, now you have to bring data. Now you have to bring results. Now you have to have unified vocals, right, where you need to speak. And it's not being done, because the success was enough that it's tabled. But it's, again, as I said in the beginning of the conversation, the wheels of the government work very slow. If you do not bring the information during the time where they need it, sooner or later, they're going to put the hammer down, and there's nothing we can do. Nothing, including me. And we work in every single day. Trust me, most people have no idea what I do in my company. No idea, but I can tell you, we are on it. It's very difficult, because what they're trying to do does not go conform with the genetics of a human skin. So it's really tricky how to balance.
That's a good point, because of the people doing the legislation, they're typically uneducated about the entire process of tattooing.
Yeah.
completely, or even how it works,
That's
how
not
the
their
needles
job.
work in the skin. So yeah, but for somebody to try to make regulations for, you know, be so uneducated about something, it's like me trying to like work on my car. I know how to change the oil. I can tell you to change the oil and put the gas in. Other than that, I'm going to be an idiot trying to tell you what to do as a mechanic, you know? So I think educating a lot of these, like Mario's talking about, is educating people, you know, what's in the pigment, the procedures of tattooing. That's a huge step, because then if they don't understand it, they're just going to be pushing a bunch of bullshit agendas, like, you know, like they're trying to do right now.
Yeah, I mean, the main part of a pigment, right? For a simple part to what we have to create, really, and I make this always in layman's term, right? I try to bring it down because it doesn't help you if I say, okay, we have an acyl with this pigment, and when it comes together, it mutates. Nobody understands it. You lose everybody after fucking 3 minutes of the conversation, right? But the main part, what you really have to understand is we have to create a pigment where the body, right, the macrophages and the fibroblasts, which hold on to the pigment so it stays stable in the place where it is, has to think the cell, right? It's a very smart part of your body, has to think, this product is not dangerous, so I don't reject it, right? And then, but it's also not safe enough. And it doesn't mean that it's safe. Anybody who listens, I know you're fucked. There's somebody out there typing already. Oh,
yeah, don't linger on every word.
He keeps it there and say, okay, let me hold on to this for a little bit, right? Until I figure out what to do with it. Should I put it in the body or should I reject it, right? That's the simplest form of explanation. That's where the pigment has to be done. And of course, the ingredients have to be in the right composition. Otherwise, this cell, which is 10 million years old, is going to say, get rid of it or fucking absorb it, right? That's what our body does. It's just a safety barrier for everything, like the skin, right? And so, but them not having the data, they're just making decisions on hand what should be outside of the body and not inside, right? That our lawyer always makes a great explanation. You can eat a steak, no problem. Cut your skin open and plant it under your skin. You're going to have a nasty reaction. You know, your body is going to not take it. It doesn't work. So it's two separate elements what we're trying to mix, you know. True. But again, I just wish that the people could be more focused and bring it together. So I think there's, again, back to the band, I try to reel it in for a second. I think that there are several companies which work very hard on it to create the product. I know we're going to have a lot of colors passed. Our colors are currently in testing. Not all of it, because we have to make some adjustments, right? That we have too big of a range. It's 380 different colors. That's the going range from all color companies, about 200 plus, right? Between 200 and 300. I think it's going to take some time to really adjust it. But I think ultimately, this industry is not going anywhere. They're going to find a way to make it work for the artists, and they're going to like bring the colors out. They may be delayed. If you guys remember the black shortage, what was... I think it was in about 2015. Remember that? When from one moment to another, they banned all the blacks because of the pH and pK labels.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
It's like, and that was just on a report, by the way, from a cosmetic company in the US, not related to tattooing, that they created a purified black, which has a different pH and pK level. And then the German guys, not naming the name in this case, not the color company, but on the panel from the ECTP, one person said like, oh, everybody should use that because it has lower levels. Has never been tested in our industry, has never been used in our industry. And then when they implemented that regulation, or how they called it, a recommendation, right? That's what they call it. This is how to get around it. They recommend it first, and then they regulate it, and then they implement it, and then they make it a law, right? And then basically we couldn't even get the pigment because the pigment only existed in a lab. It didn't exist. It was not there. It was a test. So it's like it caused a worldwide shortage of black because, oh, we can't use it, especially Germany, right? Oh, you can't use it. You can't use it. You have to use that. I'm like, stupid ass, we can't even get it. It's like, and then it took us 6 months, most of the suppliers to really get back to the black, and it's now implemented. And then there was a big study from Italy coming out where they were saying they tested all the blacks on the market a year later, and that it's incredible. From 10 blacks, what they had, two failed, and it's like it's a disgrace in the industry. Then I came on the next speaker and I said, it's incredible. From 10 blacks, 8 passed. A year ago, 10 failed. So it's like, are you guys insane? It's like you're talking about the 2 blacks who didn't pass, but you talk about the 8 which passed. So 8 of the 10 suppliers did an incredible job for self-regulating to adjust to the new pigment. Nice. So give our industry some respect and courtesy of credit that we're doing the right thing, you know?
Definitely.
That's definitely a good message. I think there was a question coming up from Lauren. Lauren, I don't know if you can hear us, but I saw a message about where is the data of the laser removal claiming.
Sure, I can hear you on my end.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. Okay. Can you repeat the question, please? Because I didn't have the time to read it. Lauren. Hello.
What was the question approximately? Okay. Where's the data of the laser removal?
Of the laser removal, yes. I think that this is what I've been, it was only for a fraction of a second. This is what I could read. So where is the data of the laser removal claiming the eventually toxic, like the toxic components?
They're not claiming that there's toxic components, because if they would do it, what basically happens is they would put themselves out of business, right? What they're claiming is that we are responsible as color manufacturer, that the product is safe to be removed. That's their claim, and that's Dr. Bäumler out of Germany. I mean, he sits on the board. He's one of the guys. I mean, ask Dr. Bäumler, write him a letter and ask him, and hopefully everybody who listens writes him a letter and asks him where that claim is. The challenge is like that they're not saying that it could mutate, right? But they're not saying that it could do something. They're not saying that there is any possible danger. They say, if there is something, it's the responsible from the pigment manufacturers. So it's the responsible for the tattoo pigment guys, because they creating a product that's being put into the skin. And when somebody wants to have it removed, we need to be responsible that it's safely to remove. And we said, but genetically or historically, that's not the purpose of our pigment.
That's not why it's made. Yeah.
It's like,
that's crazy.
And it doesn't freaking work, it's like, so then your system, like I always explain this to Adalas. I don't know if you guys remember that way in the medieval time, when somebody got sick, what they basically did is they fucking drained your blood out of your body, right? And if you were still sick after 2 weeks, then they take a little more and they take a little more, and then you died, and they say, I don't know, he died because he was sick. No, he had no more fucking blood. Right, and this was the fucking like treatment in the medieval times for that, right? Like,
back then.
Right. This was the scientists at that time and the doctors what created it, and that's what I compare the laser with. I think the laser removal method is an outdated method. It's like they're using a method which was created for a completely different industry, right? Hair removal, spackle, skin rejuvenation, whatever the hell people want. And then they figured out that they can do tattoo removal with it, not considering what really happens with it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, they see they can break the pigments, but they don't know what really happens next.
And they didn't care.
And then they blame the tattoo industry for having the pigments inside there, which is
right. And then they always wanted us to give up all the information what we're using and where we can now pigment from. I'm like, no, find a better system. I mean, you guys, like Medlight Lasers and these companies, they have hundreds of millions and billions of dollars of support to create something better. They're in the medical industry. They get government funding, they get government support, they have all the outreach. They should find a better way to remove it. It's not for us. We have to create it that it's stable and safe, and that our client can be 120 years old and the tattoo is still in there and stays. Yeah. That in a safe manner. That's our job. We don't have a job what happens 100 years down the road.
No. We spoke to Professor John Swerk on Monday about his crew at Binghamton University is studying. They got $500,000 from the United States government to study what happens when lasers hit tattoos. So that study will be published in, I think, 2 more years.
Yeah, I mean, they don't need to have a 2-year study. I can tell you what happens. It's very simple.
Exactly.
Let's send them a letter, and they said you should give the $500,000 for the tattoo industry to restabilize itself and try to stay afloat. because the industry, it's very simple. You shoot a light source in a frequency into a laser, which breaks up a particle into nanoparticle, and then it gets through your system out when you go to the bathroom and piss. I don't need to have a 2-year study for that. That's what it is. It's very simple. It's a 2-minute study. It's like, if it doesn't come out, it goes in. Where's the logic?
The problem is they don't have anybody educated, like hyper educated tattooers like yourself on their panel to even educate them. So the lack of education on their part is going to keep them running circles and trying to figure shit out, you know, just like a lot of the, you know, the Board of Health people. When we first got regulated in Ohio, they didn't even know the name of the equipment they were there to inspect. So they're putting a bunch of people from like these other kind of like departments and trying to put them into tattooing with no understanding, like I said, of the process, the procedures. The first lady that ever inspected me in Ohio when we got regulations in 1998, she goes, "Do you have one of those bubbly things?" That was her first question. "Do you have a bubbly thing?" And I go, "Ultrasonic?" Yeah, I was like, and I looked at her. I was like, "You mean you're here to inspect me, but you don't even know what you're here to inspect or the name of the equipment or anything?" And I asked her, I was like, "What's the first point of cross-contamination in a tattoo studio?" She couldn't even tell me. I was like, "It's a doorknob."
Yeah.
I mean, it's that simple. There's simple things that we know that they don't have any clue what they're doing, and they're trying to regulate us. They need like Mario on their panels, literally, to get in their brain. Yeah,
we need to tell them. We need to tell them, because otherwise they're just going to do it. So ultimately, the ball is in our court as an industry. And if we do not unify and get together and make it right and get the right message out and do it, I think we can blame that. It's easy to blame the other side, right? It's really, we have to blame ourselves for not being organized and not being together and not being honest to each other. Because when I sit on a table with the color companies and I hear how people sterilize their colors, what they think is sterile, I mean, I just want, it's like, I'm like, hold on a minute, did I just fucking hear this? I'm like, I have to put the blinders on, you know what I mean? And I say like, Jesus Christ, man. I mean, it's really, and it doesn't mean that it's bad or not, but I'm like, we need to speak open to each other in a room and really work on this as communication for like really, really, really intensively, right? Like I would say, really honest, and then really make it right. You know, otherwise we're just screaming into the fucking padded room, you know?
Well, just like I thought one of the only solutions when we got regulated with the Board of Health regulating studios for safety was like, they need tattoo artists on that panel that are non-biased to go into these studios to be like, to actually look from an educated standpoint. Same thing with the pigments. They need somebody educated to look at every aspect, educate them. And then that's the only way to really grow and to change things. You're not going to change out of lack of education.
Yeah. But Mario, sorry, what do you think is going to happen next, realistically, as from, what is it, January?
January 4th.
Right.
Yeah. So I think what's going to happen is, and this is just a prediction. I don't have a
speculation.
Glass ball. I don't have a glass ball here, right? The glass cookie, the magic ball. I don't have it here, but I have an assumption. What's going to happen is that they're going to go for the shock and awe system. I think this is what has been done from the first day on, right? Every time there was a conference for the ECTP, it was like that there was a newspaper article or something on the news that tattoo pigment are dangerous, and then a week later there was the conference, right? So I think what they're gonna do, it's, again, disclaimer, my personal opinion has no blah, blah, blah. You know, we live in a world where you have to disclaim everything. Right. It's like, I think that they're going to go with the shock and awe system. They're going to fucking walk into several tattoo studios. They're going to confiscate all their pigments. They're going to put hefty fines on the tattoo artists, and just to push it out, to have the general public aware of it. And then they're going to say like, oh, we need to regulate, in the general public, which has nothing to do with it, which is still bigger than the tattoo public, right? Is going to scream, yes, regulate. Then they're going to give them the green path to move forward to the next step. And that's what I've told already the industry in our discussion in 2019 in Vegas. If you remember, Derb, it's like, I was like, listen, this is only 2 colors. They're going to go after everything we got. Yeah. Every single color until we are in this point, until there is nothing left, you know. And hopefully we can sustain for 10 years, because then the generation which understands more of tattooing will come into place. And into power.
That's what it is. Yeah,
you know,
it's like a generational thing. It's trying to govern our. Yeah, you're right. So once that next generation, they're gonna have a better understanding. and more of an
what we're doing, they will
probably
understand what it means to be tattooed. They will understand what we need, right? What our needs are as an industry. So I think that hopefully all of us can sustain till then. Many of them will fall out, right? And then go from there. And I think the biggest challenge what has to happen is, again, that the Europeans and the Americans and the South Americans or any manufacturer in Asia, right, have to get together and start working on it. It's like, what is the standard? Under which standards do we have to manufacture? It doesn't help me if I come out and show my surplus in my facility. It's like, it doesn't help me really, or the industry, to if I come out, you know what I mean, with the standards what we using, because it will put such a burden on everybody else. It doesn't work, you know. But those are my standards. They're self-inflicted. I want to do them. Not all of them have to be necessary for micro manufacturing, which I call, it's nothing else. It's a microbrewery, right? If somebody wants to make small batches for themselves or for a limited amount of clients under certain amounts, they should have different regulations than we have, who makes pigment for the masses, right? It's like, I mean, you can make your own vodka and whiskey at home. It's not vodka and whiskey, guys, just an example. It's like, if you make a whiskey at home, you know, or a beer at home, if you want to make 500 bottles, then make 500 bottles at home, you know, that's okay. You don't need to have a clean room and lab environments and microbiologists working and people running around in suit, like where everybody has a sickness, you know?
Yes. Actually, I was in, sorry, Derp. There you go.
Well, I was just going to say, I think a lot of these regulations, like one of the reasons we're talking about conventions, I think that these regulations with pigments are really going to affect us in conventions also.
Yeah.
You know,
well, yeah, that was my
there,
initial question. You know, like I kept thinking about it lately, you know, and I was thinking about all the conventions which have to happen in Europe next year.
Yeah.
You know, I'll be quite nervous.
Mm-hmm.
You know, as an
yeah, I mean,
it's first 2 years of COVID, then you got a ban on tattooing. I mean, those are not easy times.
I think you're raising a really good point, because people focusing on the micro issue, right? And the micro issue is that there's a ban coming down, and I see the messages on the internet's coming in, right? Like, unfortunately, social media is like the highway now, right? For all opinions. And I see, oh, the pigment manufacturer should have done something. The pigment manufacturer, they know about it. I'm like, yeah, we do. But you don't know anything about it because you're not listening to what we're saying. We're working on this since 2003. We are not working on this since fucking 10 days ago. We're working on this since 2003. We are on it. The pigment have improved. I can tell you that, and almost now I say 99.9% of the pigment, 99.9% of the pigments used today are 100% better than they were 10 years ago. I can tell you that, regardless which brand is out there, regardless, you know, and besides, and unfortunately I have to say it, if there's knockoffs coming in from China, right, because there's absolutely no regulation. So that's different. There is some companies overseas which are doing great stuff too, but we're dealing with, like, the color companies, regardless which brand, deals with the situation that our product sometimes get pulled on a RAPEX report. It's not our product, but our name is on it. But it's like, we clearly know it's a knockoff. We show him the proof, but then whatever is on a RAPEX report can't be pulled off. So the brand is associated with it. It's like, so the government has a lot of work to do if they really want to stabilize that green, blue, and any other pigment. They need to put a proper channel in place, how to control it. How can they secure the business, that we as pigment companies can do the right business, that we say this is a proper product, this follows the regulations, and we are protected from everything else what comes in from the outside, right? Because if they don't do that, all that is smoke and mirrors. Yeah, it's like there's nothing we can do, you know.
Yeah, Gabe, do you have any, you know, like you mentioned about the what is coming from China? I was curious if you have like anything to add on regulations coming from China or Hong Kong in terms of pigments. And
I mean, Hong Kong, we're quite lucky because the past 3 months, we only have 0 number of COVID-19 injuries. And then most of them, they are from outside. So we are doing pretty well. And then even China, we don't have very low number.
No, sorry, I was talking about the regulations in terms of colors and pigments, if you have any in Hong Kong. Or any.
That one, because in Hong Kong, the government is they don't control this. So I know, I know that a lot of these days, like I bought things, I ordered the equipment from outside from the state, but most of them, they bought it from China. Because in China, even those distributors, I don't trust them. You know what I mean? I don't trust them.
You don't trust them.
I don't trust them.
It's very interesting.
Where do you get the colors from?
let me add something.
Most of my color, I order them from Europe and the States. You know, so in a lot of my buddy, a lot of my friends, they are the distributor, like a Dynamic Ink or whatever, and then, but still, I don't trust them. I don't order inks from them.
So it's a very interesting question. I can say something too. We cannot officially import pigments into China. It has to be declared as a different product. Like it can't come in as a tattoo pigment. So they do have regulations. So the regulation is that you cannot import tattoo pigments into China, but you can export tattoo pigments from China. I just want to know where they came from if we couldn't import them. So if there is intents coming out from China, which is being sold on Alibaba, and then we had a big lawsuit, and I'm just speaking about mine right now, against Charm Color, right? Which imported $6 million worth. They called up a shipment $6 million. I'm like, well, how much pigment did you guys fucking manufacture? It's like, and they brought it into the United States, they caught it on the port. So they are allowed to export tattoo pigments, but they are not allowed to import tattoo pigments. So they know very well what they're doing.
So you can't get in tens anywhere even over there.
We can, like, unfortunately, we have, everybody, not only tens, but also every other pigment company which sells original product over there. They have ways to get it in. Okay. Unfortunately, they have, we have to utilize some of our previous experience of our previous life, of all of ours. So we know the ways how to get it in. But it's like, that's really the truth. If you put it on as a tattoo pigment, you cannot import it into China.
And that could really damage a lot of like American pigment companies.
Yeah, every brand. Yeah, absolutely dynamic. And it doesn't, like Gabe just mentioned, that dynamic, they have the same issue. And they're working on stuff to stabilize it, that people understand what is genuine, right? What's a good product? Because it's like nothing else is the aftermarket product, right? If you look at the Asian culture, they manufacture a lot. It's a imitation factor, manufacturing situation, right? They live in it's a big industry, but they're buying the original. So even though all the aftermarket comes out from Asia, right? And it's not only China, it's Taiwan, it's whatever it is, it comes out, all the fake Louis Vuittons, not commercial, disclaimer. And listen, this is maybe funny that I say this, but it has the reason why I say it. It has a reason, Yeah. Because I know I'm gonna get a lawsuit after this because I'm making so what happens is they manufacture fake Louis Vuittons, right? But the Chinese person or the Asian or Hong Kong or whatever, they will go for the genuine because they want that genuine status, right? And that's the same with the pigments. And that's exactly what Gabe said right now. And I like that because he proves the point. There's a lot of aftermarket there, but the educated consumer will take the proper product. The challenge what we have is that our industry, I think only 5% of our industry is the top understanding educated client. Disclaimer, I'm not saying that you're dumb, I'm not saying that. But 95% of the people are starters. They are working their way up to the top. There's only 5% on the top. There's not 100% on the top, guys. 99% on the top doesn't exist. It's only the top part which understands that system. The people which start today in tattooing, which haven't worked yesterday, don't know that. Yeah. And those are the people which gonna go in and take the product until they figure out what the situation is really, right? And then, unfortunately, it's too late sometimes because you used 5 years of product You know this, you and I talk about it. We do business with each other because I don't believe you should copy anything. Work with the people who create it. I think it's the best way to do it. Make partnerships, work together so you keep a better pattern on it.
You blew my mind that year at your show when we were standing there like, hey, we want to develop a true grip, but we don't want to rip off your company. Will you help us develop a product for our company? I wish more people in this industry operated like that. I've been ripped off a lot, and it goes back to, like ripping off Pigments, all that stuff. But to me, it's such a small industry. But like you said too, people are out for themselves. They want to profit as much as they can without supporting the original company, essentially. And that's why people import fake stuff from China and things like that to get it cheaper. But with ethics and morals within this industry, it's like, support the people that invent the stuff, that go out of their way to make sure pigments are manufactured properly and bottled properly, and things like that. So I think I talk about that, and I talked about that at the coalition event before, and you handed the mic over to me. You were like, hey, Derb, you want to talk about this? And my whole thing was like, back in the day when people were copying tattoos out of magazines, tracing them, resubmitting them to magazines and putting their name on it, that became a sin. That became a discussion within tattooing. And my whole point back then was just like, same thing's going on with products nowadays. People are watching what other people put out, and rather than being like, hey, Derb, like you did, hey, Derb, we want to carry True Grips for our company, they'll go and manufacture themselves. I'm not going to name companies. We all know who's ripping off True Grips in the industry, but that's a big discussion on the table, because nowadays, like, copying tattoos before was a sin. We've all talked about it. You don't see it that much anymore. You don't see people really copying stuff out of magazines and resubmitting Guy Aitchison tattoos with their name on it. Same thing with products. It's like, support the industry. That's the only way it's really going to, kind of like be regulated on its own that way. And support people that go out of the way to bring the products or to do the research or bring something new to the table. Because if not, it's just going to get regurgitated and lost in translation, like a lot of stuff in tattooing right now is.
It's a lot easier to work within an ecosystem and collaborate with each other, other than, like all work in a very disjointed way, which at the end of the day doesn't lead the whole industry very far. And then even yourself, if you work that way. I mean, and and this is also like why, for example, like I like to do those panels about tattoo conventions and bring, convention organizers together. I see it as a common industry, and which, it could use some common standards, it could use some common knowledge, and some common organization to offer the best possible experience to anyone involved into it. Again, like we did this couple of panels like a year ago about conventions, speculating what was going to happen next during this pandemic. Now we are almost at the end of it, not completely. And now I see like some, exactly. Well, we'll be getting there. I'm actually quite optimistic. But then I see this other huge rock coming over, like with this, ban on eggs, and I'm like, well, that's again a pretty big challenge, and that was for me in my mind a little bit of one of the main topics of this panel, because I think a lot of people have a lot of questions, and there is a lot of uncertainty. I mean, I think in the industry, a lot of people. Hey, oh, there you go.
Speaking of questions, hey,
Gabe, yes.
How are you? So
Baker.
We are rolling into the next event, but maybe if you want to stay on and maybe talk about tattoo conventions in the context of, well, the next event that we have is the Tattoo Collecting Podcast with Fawn. We also do have some questions from the audience.
We had 1 hour, guys. So
listen, you wanted to talk about the Pigments. That's
we just got started.
I think what we spoke about is vital. What we spoke about, super vital, because it will affect tattoo conventions.
And we are inviting you to stay on. So if you want to stay on for another hour and again answer some questions about tattoo conventions in the context of tattoo collecting, like I said, we have a couple, one way or another, that we want to ask you.
We can do that. I have time to. I just want to throw something out to our panel here, and I've been thinking about this. It's like, I'm gonna give you guys an open invite, and I think we as organizers should get together and get together as a team, all of you, and just convention organize and create one event
for convention organizers.
Super.
And
One
I will
super
offer,
event.
I will offer
That'd be
this.
awesome.
You guys can come to the States so we can meet or do it on Zoom. We can do it anywhere in the world, but I would urge and I would offer this on the table right now that we as organizers get together and create one ultimate show. So if you guys want to do that,
Count me in, Mario,
on it.
because
Yeah.
I'll be in Vegas, our Vegas home
Yeah.
on the 17th. So
Yeah.
if you want to get together, grab breakfast or anything, man, let me know.
Yeah, for sure. So
That's a good
it's
idea.
just open on the table. We should do it like a worldwide event, you know, where the biggest convention organizers get together and create one ultimate event, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, this has been in the back of my mind for a long time. I was actually very close to organize this. I was talking about it actually with the organizer of the Venice convention. He wanted to do it in Venice, you know, a couple of years ago. Then COVID hit, then everything else was gone. But I mean, I think it would be very, very beneficial for the industry, something like this.
Yeah.
You know, it will raise the level for everyone. But okay, guys, let's stick around a little bit longer.
Give us some questions.
The questions.
So wait, first, Fawn, give a little bit of an introduction about the Tattoo Collecting Podcast and who you are, why you're here, and then we could roll into.
Well, I'm Fawn Baker. I'm one of the hosts of the Tattoo Collecting Podcast. The main goal of our show is just to educate collectors, just because, you know, as tattooers, we've got tons of platforms that we can get information and we can teach one another and we can learn from one another, but there's not a lot of really good resources right now for collectors to become more knowledgeable about collecting good art. So I just want to give a fun, easy to listen to platform for just people to learn, you know, the etiquette of our industry, you know.
I'll also add that you have a lot of experience helping with tattoo conventions and setups, and you've been invaluable here at Paradise to help us. So thank you.
I work with Derb and for Derb, so I'm kind of part of the Hell City team as well. So I spend as much time behind the scenes, like following Derb around and listening to him talk to other
It's amazing though, the energy that Fawn puts towards what she dedicates herself towards, like even helping me out with the show. She goes above and beyond. So
yeah,
Fawn's got some knowledge.
She does.
So we've got Todd on today, and you know, we're, instead of switching over and starting a whole new show, let's just shift the conversation that you guys are already having. And I guess the broad question that I want to talk about, and you know, we can all kind of expound on together, is how are conventions going to be different for the attendees and the collectors? You know, we've been talking so much about how different it's going to be for artists and organizers, but how different do you expect it to be for the attendees forward in this new, like, post-COVID period?
I think attendees are definitely going to be definitely more concerned for their health. You know, being in, like I said, there's not a lot of social distancing with tattooing. So taking the proper procedures, I think going into the show, one, being honest with each other, how you're feeling, do you have a temperature, things like that. But the entrance, I think the big change, especially with Hell City, is going to be the entrance going in. We may be doing the the taking their temperature, masks, obviously, for indoors events, hand sanitization stations everywhere. But I mean, that's mainly, we're not going to be, unless the state of Ohio requires us to show vaccination cards and proof of vaccination. That's going to mess a lot of shit up. I hate to say it, you know, even though, you know, that seems to be the direction Ohio's going, but that's going to, I think, affect a lot of the attendees coming in. But I think a lot of our shows are going to be mainly a thing of like going in and making sure you get your mask, hand sanitized, temperature, those basic things we've already been doing to get into studios. I think we're going to kind of like flow over into the conventions.
Well, I got a taste of that in New York because I'm in New York right now. I got my neck blasted the past 2 days, and all shops are making you most of them are making you show a COVID card. You have to wear a mask. And I got a COVID test at Ink Magazine. They do an instant one there. So, you know, I think that's the norm for at least another year. And especially with conventions, I think that a lot of them are going to make you show a vax card. I know in New York, in Empire, they're going to make you.
So when you got tattooed by Megan, like you had to show your your vaccination card to get into the ink studio.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that regulation is New York City regulation, right? Because you have to show a vaccine if you go into a restaurant. So it's like it's really going on to the state where you live. I think that's we're going to be regulated on that. So there's going to be general changes for any event besides if you have a football event, right? Because there everything goes because the $1 billion marketing machine is behind it and they want that running. Yep. Every other event is going to be that you have to show proof of vaccination will become mandatory. Mark my words. I don't care what anybody says. I come from Europe. People think it's America. Yeah, this is America and it will become mandatory. There's no way around it. So you have to show that or you have to show the test. In Europe, they have to show a test every time they enter in a new vicinity. I don't know if you guys know that already. Like in Austria.
In Italy, they already do that. The mandatory.
Yeah,
and that's gonna
it's like, and they're gonna do it. It's gonna come. The first airlines just announced you can't fly anymore if you don't have proof of vaccination, and others are to follow. If one comes, the other ones come.
Well,
so I think the biggest change to what's going to happen is that, and this is now I'm speaking about the convention what we have here, what's coming the conference.
Yeah.
Which is really under jeopardy right now. I mean, we're in the last 11th hour of there could be a possible pull of the convention. Because there is such a fear implemented into the people which are attending that they don't know. One person says, I don't want to fly because of COVID. The other one says, I don't want to go to an event because it's COVID. The other one says, I don't want to come because I have to be vaccinated in a casino. The other one says, I don't want to come because I have a mask on and when I get tattooed, I don't want to have a mask on. It's so there's so many different
those are all valid
fear factors from the people or concerns. Let's not call them fear factors, but they're concerns embedded in the brains of the people which come to a conference or convention that they will play a big role in the future of what the outcome of the convention is. And I think we're seeing a rapid decline on attendance, right? I think we have seen this in Philadelphia, I've seen this in New York, we have seen this everywhere, that the attendance is shrinking. And I think it's not because the conventions don't want to be there. I think it's the people are in such an unsure place where and how to go,
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the real challenge.
In Europe, some conventions have been pretty busy, and some of them, at least the one of last weekend, a lot more than in past years. And the conventions which had less visitors is because they had expensive testing at the entrance, like 30, 40 euros to get tested. So people didn't want to get in. But in some countries where they didn't have that or they were free, then the attendance was actually really good, a lot more than what they expected.
And it's going to be in those areas. In those cities.
Yeah, it depends on the restrictions you have, like at the entrance. That will have a big influence on the result of the convention itself.
I think it's definitely
that depends on the country.
It's definitely going to affect the shows that are in those like cities and states that have those heavy regulations. Like if Ohio does that, if Columbus, Ohio does it, when we bring back Hell City next year, I guarantee we're going to see less than half of our normal attendees. And it's nothing that we've done as promoters.
Yeah,
like our last Hell City shows, man, like 2019, we had record attendance, record participation, and then it just pulled the fucking plug.
I gotta pause for a second. I gotta tell a funny story because I think it's funny. So we're at Hell City the last time we were in Phoenix, and Derb's got like a backpack, and he's like, "Yeah, I'm gonna just Uber to the bank." And I was like, "Derb, I drove. I have my van." He's like, "I'm just gonna Uber." I was like,
big backpack full of cash.
Backpack full of money, like.
Don't say that. Don't say that.
Yeah, I'll choke them out with my own
materials. It was drawing materials.
Right, exactly.
Fun, man.
Everybody's gonna this next Hell City, you're gonna be like, Derb's got his backpack on. Get him.
Guy with the long backpack.
Well, I go play the World Series in 2 weeks, and they're making us have a vaccination card. We have to be vaxxed to get in there. You don't have to wear a mask when you're playing because they say you're going to be vaxxed. But my question when I get there is there's crowds. How are they going to control the crowds going into that? And you know how the Rio is and all that back area, back where it's at. I mean, it's huge. I'm really going to be really curious how they deal with all the crowds in that because, the players have got to get in before the crowd. So, the one event had 10,000 in it just a couple days ago, and those numbers are pre-COVID numbers, which is shocking to me, considering that international travel is pretty much shut down.
Yeah. So do you think it's going to affect that the attendance also at the gambling tournament?
Yeah, I do. I think it's going to be down. I think it's going to be about down 20%.
I think if we go into our next conventions, we all have an understanding of what the hell's going on. We're not going to look around and be surprised by a lower attendance. But I think it's still up to us to represent tattooing and do a good show with the safety of our people in mind, and that's the thing is like, you don't really want to do a tattoo convention outdoors. Like a lot of the outdoor concerts and events are, those are going to have a bigger attendance because people just naturally feel safer outside, with tattooing, we don't want to be outdoors. Therefore it makes it more of an intimate event when you got the aisleways of, people trying to look at portfolios and, artists and clients, and then you got main stage acts. Are people going to come up to the main stage to watch the acts and stuff like that, and the competitions? Everything's going to have to be different,
In Europe, they did sometimes doing the competition, some of the side shows, it's all outdoor, because they could only have a certain amount of capacity, like inside a building. So everything else had to be outside. So you had all these contests outside.
Those are things that we're trying to figure out, like from an indoor convention promoter. Is like, how do you bring the person right up to the promoter and say microphone, like, hey, what's your name, what's your tattoo of, like even that's changed. But do you keep a microphone over there and then have the announcer like 10 feet away being like, hey, who did your tattoo? But then everybody's speaking into the same microphone. There's all these like challenges and shit like that. So but
I think personally, I think that a lot of this we have no control over. We have just to roll with the punches, right? Whatever. Because what's a little bit different, if the EU maybe has a more structured situation, right? Because they have more unified laws. We cannot forget, even though this is the United States of America, every state has its own governing, so they can decide what they want to do and how they want to do it. So it's there's so many different variables in this. It's. I think, and I agree with that tournament. I think there's going to be less. I mean, we cannot forget, they're talking now that the international travel will open up on November 1st for vaccinated people. It's, but I wouldn't be surprised that there's some other regulations coming down the pipeline, right? Because they need to open that up because the whole international travel economy is collapsing, right? Because think about all the airplanes, all the airports, all the people working there, all the tourism, all the hotels, they're living from other people coming from different countries. And that's completely isolated right now. And I don't think that there's a lot more time for them to sustain. So they have to open it up regardless what's going to happen. But it doesn't necessarily mean that in the future they're going to shut it down. We just have to roll with the punches on that one and make the best environment indoor, outdoor, in space, right? Everybody travels to space already now. It's like even William Shatner is going to space. So finally, finally it's going to space. And so we gotta figure it out,
What's up, everybody? Can you hear me at all?
Yes.
Cool. I've been in the background. I had a question for, I guess, Gabby, Derb, Mario, Karsten. What type of new strategies can you implement moving forward with your conventions to make people still feel welcome? I went to Golden State last month, and that was the first convention in California where they required the Vax card to get into. And previously, just a month before, I was in Texas with no restrictions. So a lot of people immediately were feeling pressure. Their attendance was very low in comparison to the Texas show and all sorts of stuff. But how can you be creative moving forward, whether it's, strategizing new ways and new types of locations, communication with artists?
Go for it, Mario.
Yeah, just something to keep up, because I know that it was just artists, the vibe was terrible just because of the mask and just because of the mandates. Yeah. And if we know that going in, how can we kind of...
Simple answer. Great question. Simple answer. Move out of California.
That was my solution. I could foresee artists boycotting certain areas just due to those restrictions.
It's crazy. I mean, I don't even know how that guy, I mean, I'm not going to piss off a lot of people now in Los Angeles, but I don't even know why you kept that motherfucker in. It's like he's destroying your economy with everything he's doing. He's forcing regulations on you. He's doing stuff. We shouldn't go political, but I tell you, it's like you see it in Texas. They're wide open. They're trying to do, and many other states are wide open. And I think sooner or later we have to make a decision. This is my personal opinion, to be living life, because currently what we're doing is we're dying slowly every day, right? Because we cannot fulfill our own needs. We cannot go in the restaurants we like to. We cannot spend the time with our families where we want to go to because we are restricted. And the longer we do this, when your time comes and nobody knows what it is, you will have those days missed. So I think it should be really, really taken care of by the people. They should decide where they want to go. And unfortunately, I think California is going to go way more with the regulations than they have ever been, and they will tighten that up.
I think.
Lauren, I think.
Good.
Yeah, no, sorry. Like, I mean, I think that, like your question again depends a lot, like from which country you're talking about. Like obviously US, it's still moving on a lot with conventions, even though you have a lot of still restrictions. But for example, Gabe, before we went live, he was telling me like last week, he did a relatively small event, like with 35 or 38 artists. We got like what, 3,000 visitors or something?
Yeah. Luckily, because Hong Kong situation is a little different than the States.
It's
we have a very low number here.
Well, no, I mean what I'm trying to say is like 3,000 visitors coming over for 38 artists. It looks like a pretty good number to me. And so what I'm trying to say is like in some countries, as soon as convention will start again, I think that would get very busy. No, my question to you, Gabe, is: do you have to wear, for example, any masks inside, or
we do?
Were there any real restrictions?
Yeah, we do have. We need to wear masks, and then I mean, Hong Kong the situation is like that because we have the QR code. So once you scan it, and then you get a temperature, you're allowed to go in. And most of our artists, and then we follow the rules, so we put on a mask. Yeah.
Okay. So still uneasy, but you could still do a convention. It was still well visited. Karsten, have you ever been able to go to some conventions this year?
Actually, a month ago there was a small convention in a city called Odense in Denmark. It's called
Odense,
and there are no restriction in Denmark now. They have opened up for every aspects, and you don't need to wear a face mask, and you don't need to show proof of vaccination and stuff like that. So it's almost 100% normal in Denmark. In Sweden, there have never been lockdowns. In Denmark, there was 2 lockdowns in several months where the tattoo artists couldn't work. But in Sweden, they had a different strategy, and they were working. They didn't have any periods of lockdown in Sweden. Now the situation is a little bit strange for me because I live in both countries. So I see the difference between neighbor countries, and both countries are member states in the EU. And there are a very different approach for the tattooing business. Now the time is great for convention in Denmark because you can almost have a 100% show like you had before. But in Sweden, they have changed the strategy, so now it's even more difficult to get the event going on. And that's why we were closed 10 days before opening in Helsingborg. The governments, they have made a Corona division taking care of Corona plans. And so we were put around in the management to like a circus and said, oh shit, this is not good. So we had to close 10 days before opening in Helsingborg.
So, then it's more difficult this year than last year then in Sweden.
Last year was a no-go. We couldn't do. We tried to do 2 events and we had to postpone the dates. And now the third time, you normally say the third time is the lucky one, but this was catastrophe. They took the rug under our feet and pulled it off. So now we wait to see what's going on, and then we will announce a new date for Copenhagen next year. And hopefully the pandemic is getting better and better. So we actually can do a good show next year. But now we're in waiting position and see what happens with the color ban, and then we will move forward, and hopefully we can do a very nice show in Copenhagen, maybe at the end of summer next year. That's
I hope so for you. And I think that also depends like on the vaccination rates in a lot of countries. I know in many countries in Europe they're going very well. I'm not pretty sure in Europe. In US, you guys hit a thing like something like 50% or past 50%, but it's still a big percentage of population that's not really getting vaccinated, and you still have a relative amount of a high amount of cases throughout US. Correct me if I'm wrong, but
yeah, we have 330 million people, right, in an average in this country, and this is still called freedom, but people can decide if they want to get vaccinated or not.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, this is like, you know, the rightfully so for some thinking yes or no, right? If they say, oh, they shouldn't have the freedom, or they should, but hey, it's the land of the free, right? They can decide what they want to do, and they're in charge of their own well-being, behavior. If you want to go to a doctor or not, right? They don't have to. They can decide to, you know, take the repercussions. I think that's what you see in here. It's like that the country still decides for themselves what they want to do, and that's why this country still is one of the greatest places in the world, right? Where you can achieve your dreams, which get restricted somewhere else, right?
Yeah, I think with them implementing the, you know, if you have to have a vaccination card to get into tattoo conventions, that's going to definitely affect, you know, the attendance. Like you said, half of the people are vaccinated where you just spoke. That's half of your crowd that can't come in if they're not vaccinated. They're not requiring to show polio vaccinations and tuberculosis,
No.
You know, like all these other vaccinations that we're supposed to have. Like, we're not required to show a card to get in.
Only
anything
school.
else. Just COVID.
Yeah.
You know,
Only
which
to
is,
get into school.
yeah, exactly. But so some of these events, you know, like somebody may have TB, tuberculosis running around there.
Yeah.
We didn't ask for their tuberculosis vaccination, you know, card.
Yeah, but the difference of that is if you got diagnosed with TB, they will isolate you immediately. I mean, that's that you're isolated. And I think that was part of the problem with COVID when it started. They should have regionally locked down areas and tried to keep it like that, like China did, because China did not have the degree that we did. We were so open in that, and that was one of the problems. But again, this is America, man. I mean, you can't restrain us. I mean, it's hard to do it.
Yeah.
Look at how many people are bitching about it. I mean, I went to the Chicago show and it was just free and open. I mean, you weren't asking for vaccination cards. They weren't really doing any checks or anything like that. You just basically paid yourself and walked in. No mask.
How was the attendance? Did you notice a difference in the attendance just in general?
It was definitely down.
I think that's just going to that's going to happen to all of us. Like at Hell City, I'm even expected to see like literally half the crowd. And internally, I'll be bummed, but externally, like, it's where we're at with things right now. And like I said earlier, is like making sure that the attendees and the artists feel safe, and in implementing some of these new procedures, that may just become the new normal for all of our shows. So I think coming up with these entry regulations and safety protocols are going to be just kind of something that we're going to probably do forever with our show, you know?
Okay, guys.
I don't think COVID's going anywhere.
I've got a few questions that have come in, and Gabe's yelling at me. It's time to ask them. So
Let's do it.
Maybe you want to ask the question to a specific person to answer. It makes it easier.
Well, they're a little bit kind of all over the place. So let's just jump into the first question. How do artists submit their portfolios to be invited to conventions or to be accepted into conventions? What's the best way for an artist to submit that?
Well, I'll take the reins here on that just a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, mainly like to me is like sending here's how do I say this? I don't take somebody seriously applying for a booth if they just like, hey, I'd like to get a booth. Thanks. I want to deal with people who are like, hey, my name is so and so. I'd love to get a booth at Hell City. Here's my portfolio link, you know, and kind of like a little more composure. So I've had people be like, yo, man, I've applied like 4 times. And I'm like, and they didn't get a booth. And I'm like, cool, reapply. Then I see their email coming. It's like, hey, man, I'd like to get a booth. And I'm like, that's not, you know,
that's not our application.
Yeah. And if I'm going to deal with people, I want to deal with thorough professionals, you know? So the best way to apply to get a booth is to one, send an email, like a thorough email introducing yourself with the links. I don't want to go do work. If you're applying for a booth, you better give me everything that I need to go review you. Any other artist, it's not an apprentice show half the time. So I don't want your apprentice in the booth tattooing. So we usually review 2 working artists, and then you get a front, you know, manager's spot. So my suggestion is if you reach out to a convention to get a booth, be thorough, be professional with even your first email. Even if you get an application link back, you did something right. Because I won't even send over an application link if you can't compose a proper email. Because that means I'm gonna have to ask for your bloodborne pathogens. I'm gonna have to ask for this and that. And if you can't even give me a link to your portfolio when you're applying for a booth, I kind of don't want to deal with you, you know? And not to sound like that, but I want to deal with professionals. I want to deal with people that are thorough and represent tattooing in my show the right way. So that's a huge thing for me is be thorough with your introduction email, you know, and then when you get the application, like get on it. Because we also send out chunks of invitations for booths, and it's invite only. So if invitations go out and there's 200 booths, we send 500 invitations. It's first come, who's hungry, who wants it, you know? So that's a little insight.
That's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
Did I go off a little too much there?
No. I mean,
No, that was good. That actually was great.
That's 20 years of me dealing with incomplete emails and stuff. So you feel my pain.
I think that's a fantastic answer.
It starts with good manners.
Right, for real.
In any of your opinion, so the question was, should we box out tattoo removal vendors from shows? So what is the general opinion of tattoo removal altogether, I guess?
That's a good one.
I could take the reign on that. I don't think so. We shouldn't box anybody out. Everybody has a right to exist, and you know, there's a need for it. And if people have a question about it, then they should have the opportunity at that location to ask the question. So I think, no, why? It's like because the person who removes the tattoos in Nevada has nothing to do with the person sitting on the board in Germany. I mean, it's like, you know, that's it. Build a great relationship with that person and send some of your clients there and, you know, get a better canvas for a cover up. That's how I see it. So, you know, even though I'm like hating them when I go into hate is a strong word. I dislike them when I go into a conference because there it's a battle, right? It's like the Derp will understand it. It's different if I prepare in the gym and then I go into octagon, right? At that moment, I maybe like the guy outside, but it's on the inside.
It's business on the inside.
The laser removal business has it on with me on the conference with Dr. Sarah, but outside I have no hard feelings against it.
Okay, and the last question we have, this one's kind of a totally different direction as well. Are there any tattoo unions or similar organizations for tattooers?
I mean, the coalition's trying to establish it, right, Mario?
Yeah. I mean, there's several, right? I don't know where that question comes from, but I think almost every country has some form of tattoo organization or groups, right? Like
APT.
preference groups. Yeah, it doesn't matter if they're in England, right? England was very strong. Denmark has one, I know, right? Germany has the DOT, we have CTS, national, blah, blah. There's tons. You just need to look where they are, you know. And they all have a place in the purpose, you know, in itself. So you have to make the choice which one you like.
And this goes back to like when I first started, like 1990, 91, APT. That was one of the first ones that were really kind of like focused on the safety and education of the tattoo artist.
Yeah, there's tons of stuff out there. Yeah.
Cool. I think that's all the specific questions I had. Lauren, if you're still out there, do you have any more questions that have come in?
Yeah, actually, I'd like to hear from, let's see if my video can come on. Gabby and Karsten, I haven't ever met you before. Can you tell us like what the overall buzz is or how people are feeling? Do you think that when you do put another event on, regardless of restrictions, besides expecting lower attendance, how do you think they'll feel going in? Like, do you have a lot of people who are just so anxious they'll do anything to get in and they're really excited, or is it a little more uncertainty?
the last show we tried to make in Helsingborg, we really had to change the setup of artists because of the regulations from the government. So we downsized the number of artists coming to the show, and we had a new location. We tried to make it as a festival, so we had indoor and outdoor things going on for the whole weekend. So the artists were given huge spots. Actually, there was the biggest spots we ever made, and I have made tattoo conventions for more than 10 years. But we needed to do this to have the governments approving us. So we offered very huge size spots, and that's
social distancing.
And that was one of the reasons. So we had to downsize the number of artists coming, and we also very quickly noticed that, of course, there were artists from Europe who wanted to work the convention, but they couldn't travel. And we already knew before we started to plan the convention that overseas artists from America, South America, Asia, they were not allowed to come. So we focused on a Scandinavia event with a lot of artists from Sweden and Denmark and a few artists from Norway. A couple of German artists were showing interest, but they couldn't travel either. So we really downsized the number of artists. We said, okay, we make a very luxury approach to the artists. When they come and see how big their booths are, they will, wow, because they could bring their own chairs. They could bring it. We bought new tables for every artist so they could have their own working table delivered at the convention. We had armchairs, beds they could get for the booth. And sadly, we couldn't do the show. But we were thinking a little bit new things, that when they come, they could actually go from maybe north of Sweden, take an aeroplane coming down to the south, just show up with their suitcase, and then they had almost a fully equipped studio at the convention. So we changed some of the things to make it even better for the artists and say, wow, this is a little new approach because of the Corona situation.
Yeah,
so,
that makes sense, and that's good, because if you know that there are some like hard feelings moving like forward, that you can kind of take care of the artists and combat the negativity with some positivity, and
exactly.
and that translate over to the people that come in when they see the artist happy and comfortable. They sort of feel the same way as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Guys, on the same note, one last question which I have for each of you. What's the biggest lesson as a tattoo artist, as an event organizer, that you got out of the last couple of years dealing with this pandemic? What's the positive thing that you got out of it as a lesson?
To enjoy what you're doing, really. To enjoy the moment and enjoy the big crowds, enjoy what you're doing, because nothing's certain tomorrow. That's for damn sure. They can fucking pull the plug before you know it. So just really look back and just enjoy. Like I've said it to other people too, like we may be some of the last big tattoo convention promoters seeing big crowds and massive crowds and things like that. We may be that, not that last generation, because I'm sure things will be fine in the future, but as far as right now, we may be some of the last, we may have seen some of the last like really big crowds at shows. You know, Hell City, we were getting 4,000 to 6,000 people through the doors. You know, over the weekend, we're probably going to get 2,000. So I think looking back, I feel fortunate to have been a convention promoter before things got difficult, before the pandemic. So just enjoy the moment, you know, when you're doing something, especially conventions, because part of what I like about putting on a convention it's not the business side. I like the camaraderie. I like the friends. I like the tattoo family vibe and things like that. And that's what's kept me doing it. The energy, knowing that people enjoy the shows, you know, and things like that have kept me pushing on. It's not the financial part. I make money in other ways, but to me, the real reward of doing the shows has been bringing the tattoo community together, presenting new ideas or new ways to do the shows or new special events, but just appreciate it, because just like life, man, it could change the following day. So that's the thing I've taken from doing Hell City all these years, just the enjoyment of bringing people Hell City, you know.
I think Todd's got a question for us.
Yeah, it's sort of not with the conventions, but a little. because the main topic of conversation among the artists here is that with EU doing the regulations on the ink now, it looks like we're going to see a mass exodus of artists from Europe coming here, because they're already talking about their studios and that to come here. So what's the deal?
Like, nope.
Marty's not, no.
Borders
are closed.
Fuck no.
But it is.
We're gonna have
they
to build
already
a third
started.
level.
Dave Goresh is coming. I mean, I already know a couple other ones that are coming. So they are leaving. They're gonna.
Yeah, I mean, the
Is that gonna
top
be a
is
big problem in the future or what?
no, it's like, first of all, I think the people which can afford to leave, they are already established in the United States and they're going to have their clients here. I just think that it's going to go into the underground and people are going to push there. And because tattooing is not going away, I can tell you that. It's like, regardless where it is, they're going to find a way to make it work. Like, they're like an undying breed. You know, I can tell you that. It's like tattoo artists, regardless if they started today or 30 years ago, when they have it in their blood that they want to do it, they're going to do it under any circumstances. And so some will make decisions. Some people will travel to different country. I don't think that will be the main purpose of, look, if you have to, I'm an immigrant, right? Like first generation immigrant. Yeah. I didn't make the decision to come to the United States because it's like, oh, I can't tattoo over there, or I can't tattoo in Austria. I made a decision because I had more opportunities in the United States. And that's, I think, what the people see, that the restrictions are compressing, and Europe is in general more restrictive than the United States, right? So I think when the people have enough of the restrictions, and that implements all in their life, like how they can open up a shop, how much money they have to spend for it, how much is theirs, how many COVID tests they have to show. If I have to show 10 COVID tests because I go bar hopping, then I have enough of it. You know, it's like, so I think all this combination is going to come together and somebody makes a decision, which is very life altering, to move into a different country. Right, because you start over from zero, even if you have one or two friends, which maybe are there, but you leave your whole life behind, right? And all your school friends, or your upcoming people, which you really friendships with, they're all gone, right? You keep contact, but you start all over. So I think that's not going to be a mass exodus. I see more problems that there is going to be some difficulties for the tattoo artists coming down the timeline with punishment of fines and issue. That's really the problem, I think, what I see.
A $50,000 fine if you're caught with those banned inks.
Right. And then, but there's some other people, and that's really what I have to say. It's like there's some other people which have one or two inks made right now. And those are the people which try to portray they're the saviors of that whole petition. And they only have one or two colors, and they pushing and supporting that pattern. That's the problem, what I see. In the front, they're showing themselves as they are the saviors, but in the back, they're actually saying, oh, I have one or two pigments, so it's all fine. No, it's not fine, because you actually limit the whole industry and what they can do for your personal gain. And that's really the problem, what I see. And hopefully, hey, there's a lot of smart people in this industry, tattooers. They're very, very smart. They will figure it out. And usually, I mean, I don't know where I come from. Sooner or later, they will be vocal about it. You know, it's
well, like, from my perspective, I've got a lot of top artists, man. I mean, I've got enough of your artists on me, Randy, Boris, Steve, Bob, I mean, I've got a lot of artists on me in that, and they will do what they need to do to keep doing what they need to do. Absolutely. Sure.
I think it's interesting to see what happened also in Japan. Like for a long time, tattooing was made illegal unless you were not like a doctor or you had a medical background. But I mean, the tattoo culture stayed alive. I remember a few years ago going to a convention, and it was the last convention before they made it illegal again, I think after 2017. And I mean, the tattoo artists, they kept going. And at the end of the day, they get back to working normally again. I mean, they've been able to fight the lawmakers, which were making those kind of nonsense.
Look, it's very simple. Being a long-time tattoo artist, and I'm pretty sure I could speak for everybody on this panel. It's like we don't really give a fuck what the people say. We're gonna tattoo till the day we die, and that's it, you know. And it's very simple. And then I don't give a fuck if you put me 5 years in jail. It doesn't necessarily mean that I stop tattooing. Quite different. I have a lot of clients in there, right? So it's like it makes no fucking difference to me where it is, but that needle is gonna hit the skin, you know.
Anywhere that it's been illegal, it's always anywhere that tattooing's been illegal, it's always survived. There's always tattooing. Like New York City. No, I don't know if a lot of people know what it's like to walk through the t-shirt racks to get back to the you know, the private tattoo studio. It'll survive. It's survived since cave painting days, you know, like tattooing's not going anywhere. They may try to regulate it and this and that, but it will always, it's as old as language. It's not going anywhere.
It's probably in the nature of this industry, you know, like all those challenges, you know. I mean, tattooing, it is about being somehow a rebel, and, you know, somebody wants to control you, and you don't want that, and fuck, that's the way we do anyhow. So, you know, we keep the spirit alive.
Yeah.
I want to just answer your question, what Derp answered. For me, it's the same. I think just don't take anything for granted. You know, I think don't think it's a safe bet when you try to put on a convention. It's never a safe bet. You know, be ready to roll with the punches. Do it. Make sure that your people are happy, and that's it. You know, and then ultimately, I maybe know 1 or 2 convention promoters which actually make money on their show, you know, like if they would consider all the work they're putting in the last 6 months prior to the show. I don't know if any of them would have made money because they're spending a lot of hours behind the phone, designing, doing stuff, and nobody keeps track. So I don't think it's a money game on convention. I think it's really personal satisfaction to meet your friends and be with people which feel the same and enjoy the same, right? And, you know, the party is what we have. It's us, right? It's like it's like when we had the party in Vegas 2 years ago. I had somebody there from outside the industry. It's like, what the fuck's wrong with you people? I'm like, nothing. This is who we are. You know what I mean? We just enjoy each other's company, and we do crazy things, and we love loud music and fucking have people swinging from a hook. It's just fucking great. Nobody cares where you come from or where you go to or which race you are or how old you are or how tall you are. Nobody gives a fuck as long as we have a great time, you know. And that's really the beauty of our industry, I think, and what many people
the spirit of tattooing.
This is the mystique, right? It's the universal approach of clients, artists, countries, and people working with each other, regardless where you come from. We are instantly united with the fucking Pigments. You know, it's as soon as we are tattooed, we belong to the same family, regardless where you come from, you know.
Leading us right into my next question. This is my personal question for everybody that's on the panel. If we can kind of take turns answering this question. But while you're kind of talking about how passionate we all are about our community and how, you know, it's in our blood, I just wonder if each one of us could go through and just share a quick story about one of our favorite tattoos or one of our favorite tattoo sessions, just so we can all just have a little bit of tattoo collecting in the tattoo collecting hour.
God.
Well, let me go first because I just had one. I mean, I just had one 2 days ago. I mean, actually, the 2 days I had with Megan at Ink magazine was the most amazing time I had. I mean, her boyfriend was there, Jaden Moon was there, and we just had the greatest time. I mean, one of the reasons is Jaden Moon tattooed Megan's boyfriend's dick.
Steve got his dick.
No, I got a story about it. I got even a better story about it. She's tattooing me, and Jaden goes, well, it's time. Megan stops and goes in there and fluffs Steve so he can get hard so he can put that stencil on. So, I mean, how many people can say they've had their artist go away to get their boyfriend hard to get a tattoo? I mean, you know, that type of shit's great, man.
God damn.
Right?
Okay, the stories are done. Nobody can after that.
That's the end.
You should have made it with the story till the end. Whatever we say now is not as hard as this story.
I don't think I have any good stories now. Shit. Fuck.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, it was great, man. We had a blast this weekend. We seriously like Megan's on her way. I'm at Love Machine right now, and she's on her way. So maybe if she comes here and Steve's here, we'll talk about it a little. They should do like a
Maybe we can get a reenactment going, you know.
Actually, I got pictures. I can send to Fawn and see if she can send it up. I'll do that right now. This is hilarious.
Here, we got a video of the fluffing we're gonna send.
Oh, I got better than.
Oh my god.
Oh my god.
Oh, so much for that. It's.
I remember my stories now. Jesus.
Get started.
God damn.
Oh Jesus! I
There you
give
go,
him. He gets the trophy for that.
Yeah, right. Fuck. What was the question, Fawn?
Yeah. What was the question?
Share one of your fondest tattoo stories with us.
Oh my god. Mario, you want to go first or second?
No, there's nothing left on my side.
Yeah, I know. I think Todd just wiped all my memories
It's,
there.
Well, I got one. I mean, a small one, like a very nice souvenir tattoo at in Israel at what's claimed to be the oldest tattoo studio on the planet from the Zug family, been around for 700 years. And I went to get a little souvenir. I don't know if you can see it, but this one it says Jerusalem, and I did it together with went there with Matt Gunn, you know, the checkered man. I went to get tattooed at this tattoo studio, and it was quite a hilarious experience. I mean, walking around in Jerusalem with Matt Gunn, you know, which is covered in face tattoos, you know, and you go through this small alleys in Jerusalem, and every 3 seconds somebody will stop you or stop him to get a picture together and stuff like that, you know. And then once we got at the studio, yeah, it was just a very, very nice, surreal experience. Mary Jane Hack was there as well, you know, from Dermasource. And yeah, I mean, to me, that was a pretty special occasion. Just to do it in Jerusalem, in the oldest tattoo studio on the planet with Matt. Yeah, great memory for me.
All right, I have maybe one. So we were on a tattoo convention, just funny. It's a lifelong memory, by the way, too. So we were on a convention. We went to Hibachi Place.
Energy in the room.
You know, like, and where, so we had the cooks compete against each other, and then with these opposites, we went back in the room. We were drinking at the bar first, and then we said, like, we go old school, so we go into the room and see who can tattoo in the dark, right? Because if you have some experience, you have to tattoo in the dark, because we are so great, because we're old school guys. And it was like Tony Olivas and Bob Tyrrell and all these people. So we decided to tattoo in the dark with a lighter on and put this flaming onion on our legs. So we decided who can do the best one. Now, Tony Olivas, he was tattooing me and he fucked up the date. So he crossed out the date because he thought it's in a different day. And then now we are a group of people, 5 or 6 people, who have this little onion like this big on our leg, but it looks like a fucking piece of dirt, like the emoji from fucking leg. So we all have a little piece of shit on our leg.
Little burnt turd on you.
Little dirt on us. So that's my story.
God damn.
All right, guys. Steve are here.
Hello.
Hey.
Guys.
Hey.
Say hi.
Hi.
What up?
Hi. We heard the story. We like
heard,
that. Is there any
tattooed?
Yeah, is there any reenactment happening, or can we build a little Instagram story about that, or a TikTok?
Like happening all over again.
Todd said he's got a video of it. Is it true?
Saying it's like he did this for me, and now I see something.
Shit.
Oh, that's funny. Great story, by the way. Awesome story.
Yes, it was.
Just don't tell it to anybody with no tattoos, because they're gonna think you guys are crazy and belong to a cult.
How's your dick feeling, Steve? You got scabs on it now?
What? Hey, bro, how's your dick? What?
Yeah, how's your dick? Is it all scabby now? Flaky? What do you got going on there?
A bit of like chunky. It's like the
No derm, that's for sure.
He's not using a derm.
Rip that shit right off.
Oh, dude.
That's fun.
To see you guys.
And you guys.
All right, guys. I have to bug out of here. I got time. I've got to get to the airport here in a few. So.
All right.
So much for joining us, Todd. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for the great story, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm glad you guys got a good laugh out of it because it's a great story. Truly. All right.
Awesome.
Peace, man.
See you, Todd.
Peace out.
Bye.
God damn. That was a good story, though.
Yeah, I think this is what it will say after this panel.
That's over the time when you have to wrap it up because you know you have to keep it on the highest spot of the conversation. It's like,
yeah, I don't think I could talk.
All right,
that
guys.
story.
Yeah, I think I don't know where Gabe Ripley is. Gabe still around or?
Hi, I'm still here. Lots of things to learn.
No, Gabe Ripley. No, there's two Gabe. Gabe Shum. Gabe
All right.
Ripley.
He's probably monitoring us somewhere.
He's monitoring us. He's watching on us. Yeah, I think we are. Good to go. I mean, is anybody else wants to add anything on this last conversation?
Not really.
No, after the game, we are done. I guess we all like it deflated us. It's like
story, that was it.
Well, and I hope my fiance doesn't hear that story because that means my dick is next, and I'm like.
All right, guys. I will.
Come in, but.
I would like to really thank you all of you then for joining us today. And damn, I mean, I really hope to be able to meet up sometimes at some conventions somewhere this year, next year.
I think the last place I saw you at was where? Romania? I think we were in Romania last time.
Yeah, a few years ago. I've been stuck here now in Vietnam for 2 years. I haven't been able to get out of the country. So, now, yeah, so I'll probably be able to travel next month, then go a little while to Europe, and then maybe next year to US. I'll see what happens, but everything.
Alex,
no clear plans.
Last time we two met each other was in Milano, just before the COVID really took off.
Yeah, that was the last convention I did. Then I came back. Yeah. Then I came back here, and then they closed the borders, and I've never been out again. So that was a good. I hope to go to the next one. It's in February.
So, all right, for me, so I hope I see you guys somewhere, and thanks for having me here. You know, it was a pleasure. Made my morning. I have to say, it was a very fun panel, great people, great conversations.
Thank you.
Talking to you guys.
Really, we should do it again whenever you guys want to. Just let me know, and I'm in. And I'll see you there soon. So
thank you.
Yeah, we should grab a phone call soon, Mario. I want to hear what's doing with you there in Vegas.
Yeah. So, and all the best to Denmark, of course, right? Next time we do the show in Denmark, invite Dr. Serap and show him the backstage area.
Oh yeah.
And I hope to see you in Hong Kong, man. I love Hong Kong.
For sure. Next year is June. Try to make it.
Yeah, let me know exactly, and I plan it in. I come over because it's one of my favorite cities. I call it New York on steroids. You know,
I want to make it over there too. So
yeah,
there you go. We'll see you in Hong Kong.
All right, and then
by the way,
next,
sorry, Mario. I really like the idea of the conventional conference between convention organizers from all over the world. I think this is something that we should maybe really work on because it's
absolutely make a separate call, initiate it. We sit together as a group in those because I think everybody has a great aspect to the show, right? They have specific areas that we could take out, and it will be an incredible opportunity to really show the world that you can do some things together.
Yeah,
not
exactly. Yeah,
biggest part for me always, you know. All right, guys.
Thank you all. It was great to have you here.
I'll see you. Thank you for the chance.
Bye. Thank you to you.
Take care.
All right, guys.